Hey everyone, welcome to a bonus lesson in the Digital Planners and Publisher for iPad series. This lesson is going to serve two purposes. First, I need to correct a mistake that I made when creating my open background for my planner, and I want to do it on camera so you can see exactly what I'm doing and why. Second, I want to show you how important it is to work non-destructively whenever possible, in addition to working on master pages. Not only does it allow you to create multiple planners more efficiently, but it allows you to correct mistakes or make updates to an existing one painlessly because let's face it, mistakes happen. So, you ready? Let's get started. All right, so here's the backstory. If you recall in the lesson where we created the open planner background, I used the bottom page of the paper stack as a clipping mask to rein in the drop shadows along the top, left, and bottom edges, since they were getting pretty dark from each paper being stacked directly on top of one another. That way, the drop shadow under the entire stack only came from the clipping mask. The paper stack cuts off, though, at this very first guide right there, and that's correct because I want the paper stack to end there. The problem is, if I want to place tabs, the ones that I'm going to create for the next lesson, behind the top page in the stack, it's going to get cut off. So if I drag this down and bring it beneath that top paper, it's getting cut off here because that's where the clipping mask ends. So I need to rearrange some layers and update some clipping masks so that I can take the tabs to the edge without an issue. And because I worked with non-destructive masks and master pages, and because I used the vector crop tool, which also creates a non-destructive mask, the fix is actually really easy. Additionally, all of the drop shadow effects that I added are also non-destructive, which means I can move them to other layers, delete or adjust them without having to start fresh. So I still want a clipping mask, but I need to create another one that's going to replace that bottom paper layer and extend to that second guide without moving the original edge of the paper stack. That means that I need to create a new bottom paper layer that's going to stay with the original stack and adjust the width of my clipping mask so it extends to this second guide. But that also means that the clipping mask can't have a fill, otherwise it's going to cover up my paper stack. Now on camera, I'm only going to do this to one side, but just note, I'm going to do this to the right side in this video, but I'm also going to correct the left side off camera, as well as the version that has the binding rather than the binder rings. And I'll do all of that off camera, but the process is exactly the same. I'll start by duplicating that right paper group. So I'll hold my finger down and choose duplicate. This one's going to become my new bottom paper, so I'm going to remove everything inside of it. I'll go ahead and grab the top paper and these rectangles and delete them. And I'm also going to delete that vector clipping mask because I no longer need it. It's already going to be clipped inside something that has that vector crop on it. So I'll delete it. And then finally, I want to delete the effect that's on it, the drop shadow, because again, I still don't want to have that drop shadow stack on top of the one I'm adding to the clipping mask. So I'll go into my FX and turn those off. And while I'm here, I'm going to rename this bottom paper. I can go ahead and open this up and I'm going to drag it into the group just below the rest. Now I am keeping the drop shadow on the other four pieces of paper, the top one and then the three rectangles in between, because that's what separates them within that paper stack. Next, I'm going to go to the duplicate layer and making sure that the move tool is selected, I'm going to go to the contextual menu. Under this arrow, I need to make sure that lock children is engaged. This is going to allow me to extend the width of the clipping mask while leaving everything else inside it alone, because remember, I want the paper stack to stay where it is. Let me show you what happens when I don't do that. If I select this and I drag this over, it's going to drag the entire paper stack. So I'm going to bring that back. I'll go back up here and turn on lock children. And again, with that layer selected, I'm actually going to drag this all the way to the edge of the canvas. I'm not going to drag it to the second guide. I'll leave that just for the tabs. And what I also need to do is go into my vector clipping mask and I need to drag that because that's right now, that's considered one of those child layers that's locked. If I don't move the vector clipping mask, it's also going to clip off that tab. So I've selected my vector clipping tool and I'm just going to drag this to the right. Now you can see that it's bringing what looks like a fill with it. And that's because this layer, this clipping mask still has a fill on it. So I need to go back up to my color studio here and I'm just going to flip up to turn that off. So now that layer no longer has a fill to it, but all of the layers underneath it do. And you can see I'm right back to where I started, where that clipping mask is creating the drop shadow. But now, if I turn my tab back on and I bring it down beneath, it's no longer being clipped off by that clipping mask. So again, I'm going to follow this same process on the left side of this background, as well as the one with the binding rather than the rings. But thanks to working non-destructively on master pages, I'll be able to correct all of them quickly and move on to making my tabs, which I'm going to cover in the next lesson in the series. In the meantime, if you have any questions about how or why I corrected this, or how to work non-destructively, let me know in the comments below. The next lesson's coming up shortly, but in the meantime, if you've missed any part of the series, you can find the full playlist here. Thanks for watching.